Welcome back to Reddit Drama Unpacked. Tonight's story isn't just about infidelity. It's about a mother, a son, and a plan that could tear apart everything we thought we understood about betrayal. Buckle up. This one cuts deep. It all started with a message I wasn't supposed to receive. 1:37 a.m. My phone buzzed beside the nightstand. I don't usually wake up for notifications, but this one felt different. Like it wasn't a text, but an alarm, a warning. I blinked against the darkness, the blue light of the screen cutting through the shadows like a scalpel. Unknown number. Don't trust the woman sleeping next to you. Check the upstairs hallway, but do not open Mason's door until you're ready. My blood turned to ice. I sat up slowly, heart thudding like a drum in my throat. Jenna stirred beside me, wrapped in the sheets, oblivious. Peaceful, even. That word shouldn't have described her. Not tonight. I stared at the message again, fingers cold. I wanted to believe it was some sick prank, a wrong number, a digital ghost just looking for chaos. But something about it felt real. And worse, it didn't feel like a lie. Mason was our 16-year-old son. Bright, creative, quiet. Recently he'd become more withdrawn, spending hours in his room, barely responding when we called for dinner. I chalked it up to adolescence, mood swings, maybe even depression. Jenna had told me not to worry. "He's just finding himself," she'd said, with that warm, soft voice that always made me relax. Now, that same voice made my skin crawl. I got up. My feet sank into the carpet as I padded toward the hallway, careful not to wake her. Every creak in the old wooden floor sounded like a siren. I passed the bathroom, the linen closet, until I reached the upstairs corridor that led to Mason's room. Silence. But it wasn't normal silence. It was loaded, like the air itself was holding its breath. I didn't open his door, not yet. Instead, I stood there, staring at the brass doorknob like it might attack me. The hallway felt colder here, as if the temperature dropped with every step I took toward the unknown. Then, movement. A soft creak behind me. I turned around sharply. Jenna stood at the edge of the hallway in her robe, hair messy from sleep, eyes wide. Not groggy, not confused, terrified. "Nathan," she whispered. "What are you doing up here?" I took a breath. "I got a text." She blinked fast. "What? From who?" "I don't know," I said, "but it told me not to trust you, that I should check the upstairs hallway, that I shouldn't open Mason's door." Her face went pale. "Nathan, please," she said, "just come back to bed. Whoever sent that, they're trying to get inside your head. This isn't you." "You're right," I replied, my voice flat. "This isn't me. But I'm starting to think I've been asleep a lot longer than tonight." She stepped forward. "Don't open that door." "Why not?" Her lips trembled. Because Mason's asleep. He has school tomorrow. You'll wake him up." "You sure he's asleep?" A beat of silence. "Jenna, look at me." She did, and in that moment, I realized something was off. Not just fear, guilt. She wasn't scared of waking Mason. She was scared of what I might find if I woke him up. I moved my hand to the doorknob. "Nathan, stop," she said, sharper now. "Please, I'm begging you." My hand hovered over the knob. I didn't turn it. Not yet. Instead, I stepped back, slowly. "I won't open it tonight," I said, "but tomorrow, Jenna, we're going to have a real conversation about our son, about you, about whatever the hell is going on in this house." Her eyes shimmered with tears, but she said nothing. I walked past her without another word, back to our bedroom, back to the warmth of sheets that now felt like traps. I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling and counted every breath until morning. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a second. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that message, that doorknob. Jenna's face frozen in fear. I replayed her words over and over, not because I didn't understand them, but because they didn't make sense coming from her. The woman I married wasn't supposed to beg me to ignore our son's room. The woman I married wouldn't look at me like I was the one hiding something, and yet she had. The sun crawled over the horizon around 6:14 a.m., dragging with it a soft blue light that filled the house like an interrogation lamp. Jenna was already in the kitchen by the time I came down, brewing coffee, her back to me, pretending like nothing happened. She didn't mention the hallway. Neither did I. We sat, we sipped, we exchanged plastic smiles. And when I said, "I'm going to check on Mason," I saw it again, that twitch, that split-second flinch she couldn't hide fast enough. I walked upstairs slowly, each step a verdict. When I reached his door, I paused. Something was different. The air felt heavier, charged, like whatever was behind the door wasn't just physical. It had a weight to it, a pulse. I knocked once, softly. No answer. I turned the knob. It wasn't locked. The door creaked open. Mason's room looked like any 16-year-old sanctuary. Dim, cluttered, posters on the wall, a faint smell of old pizza and gym socks lingering, but something was wrong. It took me a moment to figure out what. The closet was open, wide open, and inside all his clothes were gone. Gone. No shirts, no jeans, no jackets, no sneakers. Nothing but empty hangers swaying like dead branches in the wind. My heart dropped. I checked the drawers next. Empty. Even his notebooks were missing. The desk drawers were bare. The only thing left behind was a single USB drive, taped to the underside of his desk chair. I pulled it free and stared at it like it might explode. Why would Mason hide a flash drive? And why did he disappear? I rushed downstairs. Jenna was gone. The kitchen light was still on, the coffee pot half full, but she wasn't there. Her phone sat face down on the table. Unusual. I looked out the window. Her car was still in the driveway. "Jenna?" I called. Nothing. I checked the bathroom, the laundry room, the guest bedroom. She wasn't in the house. Then I heard it, a dull thud upstairs. From Mason's room, my blood ran cold. I had just been up there, it was empty. I sprinted up the stairs 2 at a time, my body moving faster than my brain could follow. I reached the room, flung the door open. Empty. But the closet door now closed. I stared at it, my heart pounding in my ears. I opened it slowly. Still empty. But taped inside, to the back wall of the closet, was a note. Plain white paper. My name scrawled in black Sharpie. "You weren't supposed to see this yet." I didn't move for a long time. Just stood there, holding the note. The flash drive still in my other hand. My son had planned this, whatever this was. Downstairs, Jenna's phone buzzed. I rushed to it. One new message on the lock screen. I didn't need to unlock it to read it. It flashed in full view from unknown. If he found the drive, it's over. Burn everything else. The silence after reading that message was unlike any I had known before. It wasn't just quiet. It was a kind of vacuum, an emotional emptiness that pulled at the edges of my sanity. I stared at Jenna's phone like it might start screaming. Burn everything else? What else was there? What had already been destroyed? And more importantly, who was the other person? The sender. My hands moved on their own. I picked up her phone, thumb trembling. Locked. Of course, Jenna never let me see her passcode. I called her name again. Nothing. I went back upstairs. Mason's room still looked like a ghost shell, bare furniture, walls too still. That flash drive felt heavier in my pocket now, like it carried a pulse of its own. I didn't want to open it. Not here. Not in the house that now felt like it belonged to strangers. So I left. I drove 3 blocks down to the public library, one of the few places in town that still had computers with USB ports and no surveillance over your shoulder. I told myself I was doing the right thing, that it was better than opening it at home where Jenna might return. Or worse, where I might not be able to handle what I'd see. The librarian smiled when I walked in. I didn't smile back. I just nodded, found a corner station, and sat. When I plugged in the flash drive, a single folder appeared. Mason redacted. I opened it. There were video files, dozens of them. No labels, just dates. Some recent, some going back over a year. I clicked on the oldest one first. It opened to a grainy bedroom scene. Mason's room, but not quite how it looked now. In the video, Mason sat on his bed. His hair was longer, his expression vacant. The angle suggested he had placed the camera himself. He didn't speak for the first 30 seconds, just stared. Then finally, in a voice so small it didn't sound like him, he said, "I know what Mom's doing. I paused the video, my chest clenched. I pressed play again. I think she thinks I don't see it, but I do. The late-night phone calls, the packages in the mail, the guy who shows up when Dad's not around. I saw them. Once I even took pictures, but she made me delete them. Mason's voice broke. She told me if I ever said anything, she'd say I was imagining it. That I was sick, that she'd have me looked at. I'm scared. I felt like I couldn't breathe. There were more videos. Him speaking to the camera every few days, documenting things, names, times, his feelings, growing more paranoid, more isolated. And then, something changed. In a video dated 3 months ago, Mason looked pale, anxious. His eyes darted side to side like someone might walk in. I think I found out who he is. His name is Cal. I saw his mail in her purse. There's something wrong with him. I don't think he's just some guy. He doesn't blink. He looks at me like I'm in his way. Cal. That was a name I hadn't heard before. I kept watching. Mason had started hiding things around the house, USBs, notes, even recording devices. He was scared of Jenna, of Cal, but he was scared for me too. And then the most recent video, dated 2 days ago. Mason sat on the floor, legs crossed, hands shaking. If you're watching this, it means I'm gone. Or I had to run. I think Mom's planning something. I heard her talking to Cal. They think I found something I shouldn't have. If you're Dad, please don't trust her. She's not who you think she is anymore. My throat burned, my vision blurred. My son had been living under the same roof as me, trapped in his own nightmare, and I hadn't seen a thing. There was one more file, labeled, "Listen Before You Act, WAV." I plugged in the headphones and hit play. At first, nothing but static. Then voices, Jenna's and a man's. Cal, Jenna. He's starting to ask questions. I don't think I can hold him off much longer. Cal, then it's time. We move fast or he'll ruin everything. You still have the pills? Jenna, yes, but I don't know if I can. Cal, you can. You've come too far to back out now. One more night, that's all we need. I froze. Pills? What pills? One more night. For what? I unplugged the drive, ripped off the headphones and sat in silence for a long, long time. Then I knew what I had to do. I was going to find my son, and then I was going to burn their lies to the ground. I didn't drive straight home. That would have been reckless. Instead, I went to the one person I trusted without hesitation, my older brother, Dean. Dean lived 2 towns over in a quiet, wooded suburb. He was ex-military, ran his own small security firm, and had a brain like a tactical map. Most importantly, Dean never panicked. I called him halfway through the drive, gave him the briefest version of what I was facing. Jenna was hiding something, Mason had vanished, and there was another man involved, someone named Cal. His voice didn't waver. Don't go home. Come here. Bring everything. When I arrived, Dean already had a burner phone out, 2 laptops open, and a look in his eyes I hadn't seen since the funeral of our father, intense, focused, and a little bit dangerous. I handed him the flash drive. As he went through the videos and audio, I paced. Every second felt like my nerves were being drawn across a cheese grater. Dean watched silently, jaw clenched. When the final clip ended, he closed the laptop. She's not just cheating on you, he said. She's conspiring. With who? Cal, probably more. But this guy, he's not a boyfriend. He's a handler. I blinked. A what? A handler, or something close. Think asset management, recruitment, blackmail, psychological manipulation. Look at the way he speaks in the audio. It's not emotional, it's procedural. He gave her a mission. I sat down. What kind of mission involves drugging your husband and silencing your son? Dean didn't answer right away. Then he said, Do you remember that old neighbor of yours, Ken Markell? I nodded. The guy who worked for the state? Went missing? He didn't go missing, Dean said. He was found dead in his garage, carbon monoxide, but the report was sealed. What's that got to do with Jenna? Ken's wife worked with Jenna at the school. Same art department. I felt a pit form in my stomach. Dean leaned back. We might be looking at something bigger than an affair. This might be a pattern. Cal could be the common link. Women are being recruited, blackmailed, seduced, manipulated to target people. Maybe for money, maybe for silence, or maybe for something worse. I buried my face in my hands. Jesus! Dean pushed a notebook toward me. We need a timeline. Go back as far as you can. When did Jenna start pulling away? When did Mason begin acting differently? I thought for a moment. She got distant about a year ago. Mason changed around 6 months back. Dean jotted it down. That fits. Jenna was compromised first. Mason noticed something, started keeping tabs. That's when they turned on him. I looked up. You think he's safe? Dean met my eyes. I think he's smarter than they gave him credit for, and I think he knew you'd find the drive. That's why he left it. He pulled out a phone. I'll run a skip trace on Cal. We'll find his connections. You, he pointed at me, go home, act normal, set the trap. What trap? Dean gave me a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. We're going to give Jenna one last chance to be honest, and if she fails... He left it at that. I drove home with my hands sweating against the steering wheel, my heart pounding like a war drum. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to run, to vanish, to burn the bridge before I reached it. But I didn't, because I needed the truth. Jenna's car was still in the driveway when I pulled in. The kitchen lights were on. The house looked normal, too normal, like a staged scene. Like it had been waiting for me to return and play my role. The sun had started to set, painting the sky with bruises. Long shadows stretched across the yard like claw marks. I opened the front door. Hey, Jenna greeted from the kitchen, her voice a little too light. I was wondering where you went. I gave her a tired smile. Took a drive. Needed to clear my head. She walked over and placed a hand on my arm. Casual, like she was trying to erase the last 24 hours with one touch. Dinner's ready. We sat at the table like nothing had happened. No mention of Mason. No mention of the night before. Just two people pretending. The sound of cutlery against porcelain was the only thing that filled the air. After dinner, she offered to wash up. I told her I was heading to the garage to grab something. In reality, I had a message from Dean. Check the attic. If she's hiding anything, that's where it'll be. I climbed the foldable ladder up to the crawl space above the garage. The air was thick, stale, like secrets had been rotting up here for years. Boxes lined the walls, some marked winter, old-school files, decor. One box stood out. Red tape, no label, just a single X in permanent marker. My hands trembled as I peeled it open. Inside, photographs, dozens, maybe hundreds, some of me, some of Mason, some of complete strangers, men, women, different ages. Most of the pictures had a red X drawn over their faces. Some were slashed with what looked like a knife. Others had sticky notes attached, names, locations, dates. At the bottom of the box, I found a manila envelope. Inside, a map. My town. Pins stuck in various intersections. Most were near government offices, schools, even a few private homes. My hands were shaking. Then a final item. An audio recorder. I pressed play. Jenna's voice. Target 3 is asking too many questions. The son is compromised, proceeding with phase 2. I'll use the medication tonight. Extraction within 48 hours. That was her voice. That was her voice. I felt something snap inside me. Not rage, not fear. Just a still, terrible clarity. This wasn't infidelity. This wasn't emotional distance. This was warfare. I climbed down slowly, reboxed everything, and returned to the kitchen. Jenna was smiling. You found what you needed? I smiled back. Yes. And I think I finally understand. She cocked her head. Understand what? Everything. Back in the kitchen, Jenna's eyes searched mine like a detective scanning for signs of a lie. I smiled, gentle and disarming, but underneath that calm facade, I was armed with the truth, locked, loaded, and ticking like a time bomb. She offered to make tea. Her hands moved smoothly but not naturally. Too deliberate, too choreographed. I saw the way her eyes darted to the clock on the wall. Not once, twice. Subtle pauses between movements. She was stalling, waiting for something, or someone. I played along. "I've been thinking," I said, taking the first sip of the tea she handed me, slow and careful. She turned toward me, sitting at the island across from where I leaned. "Yeah?" she asked. "About us, about Mason, about everything, really." Her lips parted like she was about to interrupt, but I held up a hand gently. "And I realized you've been under a lot of pressure lately." Her eyes narrowed just slightly. Not concern, calculation. "Work's been intense," she replied. "The school's cutting funding, and you know Mason's been off lately. Teenagers are hard to read." "Yeah," I nodded. "And I want to help. I want to understand. I want you to trust me with what's been weighing on you." That's when she hesitated, just for a beat, but I caught it. The mask. Perfect, practiced, cracked. A fracture no one else would have seen. Then she smiled again, tighter this time. "There's nothing to worry about, Nathan. Everything's fine." A lie, and a lazy one at that. I placed my cup down slowly. "Good, because I found something in the attic." She didn't move. "What attic?" "The one above the garage," I replied casually, as if mentioning a weather report. "There's a box there with photos, lots of them, people I don't know, all with red X's across their faces." Her nostrils flared just for a second. Another crack. "And a recording," I added. "Your voice, talking about targets and about extraction, about using medication." She stood up. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Then why did you use the exact words I just said, Jenna?" Her jaw tightened. "What is this, some kind of test?" "No," I said. "This is your chance. The last one." Silence fell between us like fog, thick, ominous. Then a knock on the front door. She flinched. I stood slowly. "Expecting someone?" "No," she said too quickly. I walked to the door, opened it. Dean stood there, dressed in plain clothes but carrying the posture of a man who could level a room without raising his voice. He nodded at me. "Evening." Jenna paled. "Who is this?" Dean stepped inside. "Security consultant. I specialize in domestic deception." She laughed, but it was high-pitched, nervous. "You brought someone? That's how little you trust me?" "No," I said. "I brought someone because I trust my instincts, and my son." Her face froze at the mention of Mason. Dean turned to her. "Let's cut to it. You're going to tell us where Mason is. Now." Her eyes flicked toward the kitchen. He left. 2 days ago. He's at a friend's." "Which friend?" She hesitated. "Evan." I looked at Dean. "Mason and Evan haven't spoken in 6 months." Dean stepped forward. "Where is he?" Then Jenna did something I wasn't ready for. She smiled, but it wasn't relief or fear. It was something else entirely. Calm, cold. "You really don't get it, do you?" she said. "You think this is about me cheating? About some twisted affair? This goes way deeper." Dean's voice cut in like a scalpel. "Then explain it." But she didn't. She ran, straight out the back door. Dean shouted and took off after her. I stood frozen for a heartbeat, heart racing. Then I followed, sprinting through the house and into the backyard, just in time to see Dean vanish down the alley. The night had fallen fast and the yard was bathed in moonlight. Then a sound behind me. Footsteps, quiet, measured. I turned, and there he was, Cal, standing in my living room like he owned the place. Cal stood in my living room with a stillness that was unnatural. He didn't fidget, didn't blink. He just watched me, like a scientist observes a rat before the maze starts burning. I didn't move. Not yet. He wore a tailored black coat over a grey shirt, clean but unremarkable. No logos, no scent. He looked like someone built not to stand out, just to survive. But behind his eyes I saw it, that abyss Mason had talked about. I finally broke the silence. "You're Cal." He gave a slow, clinical nod. "I am." "What do you want?" "That's not the right question," he said, voice smooth as glass. "You should ask what's already been decided." I clenched my fists. "Where is my son?" He tilted his head. "Alive for now, but not because of anything you've done." I stepped forward, blood boiling. You touch him, I swear." He raised a hand, calm as ever. "If I wanted him dead, he would have disappeared weeks ago. If I wanted you dead, we wouldn't be talking." He moved across the room and sat on my couch like he owned it, like I was the guest in his home. "You weren't supposed to find the attic," he continued. I didn't answer. He reached into his coat slowly. I tensed, every instinct screaming that a weapon was coming. But he pulled out a file, tossed it onto the coffee table between us. It slid to a stop, the edge curling up slightly. I opened it. Photos, dozens, of me, Mason, Dean, my late parents, even co-workers, grocery receipts, surveillance logs, notes in tidy mechanical handwriting. "You've been watching us." "For years," Cal said. "Before Jenna, before your marriage turned sour, before Mason knew how to hold a camera." "Why?" I whispered. "Because you were being considered," he said. "For what?" He smiled. And this time, it did reach his eyes. "For elevation." I didn't know what that meant, but I hated the sound of it. He leaned forward. "Your wife?" "A pawn. A recruit. A weak link that held long enough to be useful." "And Mason," I growled. Cal paused, almost reflective. "Collateral. But he adapted. Resourceful kid. That USB. Clever. We underestimated him." I clenched my jaw. "You're not taking him." He leaned back. "We don't need to. He's already in the system. He knows too much. He'll either comply, vanish, or become leverage." I surged forward, grabbing him by the collar, but he didn't flinch, not even a twitch. "You're a dead man if you touch my son again." He looked me in the eye. "You still think this is about your family? This is bigger. This town, your job, your past, all pieces. You were never a husband. You were an asset. You failed your activation. But Mason, he might succeed." I let go, shaken. Dean burst through the door seconds later, breathing hard, gun drawn. "He's gone," he said. "Jenna slipped into a car, tinted, untraceable." Then Dean saw Cal, but Cal simply stood, calm, untouchable. "I'm leaving now," he said. Dean pointed the gun. "I don't think so." Cal looked at me. "You want answers? Follow the codes. Start with the bank lockbox. Jenna left you more than lies." And then, before we could react, he stepped back and sprayed something. A small canister, smoke. Dean shouted. I lunged, but Cal vanished into the fog like a ghost. When it cleared, we were alone, and the game had changed again. We stood in the fading smoke, lungs burning. Dean coughed, eyes narrowed, gun still ready, as if Cal might reappear out of the fog like a bad dream. "He was right there," I said quietly, like saying it too loud might undo what we'd just witnessed. "And now he's vapor," Dean replied, "like he was never here at all." But Cal had left something behind. Not a weapon, not a threat, a clue. "Start with the bank lockbox," he said. That morning we went to the downtown branch. I didn't even know Jenna had a deposit box. But Dean had found a small brass key sewn into a hidden pocket of the coat from the attic. Same coat where I found the photos. Same coat she wore the night Mason disappeared. The bank manager hesitated, but after verifying my ID and the key, guided us into the vault. Box 1123. It was colder than I expected inside. The lights buzzed faintly. Dean stood behind me as I inserted the key with shaking hands. The latch clicked open. Inside, a slim, leather-bound notebook, a second USB flash drive, and a small silver locket. The locket was tarnished, old, and at the hinge a tiny stain and reddish-brown. Blood. Dean picked up the notebook. On the cover, "For Nathan, if you're reading this, I failed." I sat down on the steel bench against the wall and opened the first page. "Nathan, I know what you think of me. By the time you read this, I imagine you've seen the recordings, heard the conversations. There's no easy way to explain what I became. But I need you to understand something important. It didn't start out this way. At first, they approached me like recruiters. They said it was for national security, a surveillance pilot program, behavioral risk assessment. They gave me stories, and I believed them. They were charming, persuasive, and eventually coercive. The first thing they asked for was access. They wanted to know about your job, your co-workers, your old friends. Then it was Mason. I resisted. For months I said no, I kept secrets from them. That's when the threats began. They said they'd expose me, frame me, that they'd hurt Mason, so I complied. A little at first, then a little more. Until I didn't know where the line had gone. Cal, he's not a man. He's a machine in a suit. He doesn't feel things like we do. Don't let him get to Mason. He's grooming him, like they did to me. The USB drive contains everything I stole from them. Names, codes, places. And if you're reading this, I couldn't finish what I started. I'm sorry. J. I read it twice, then a third time. The words didn't redeem her. They didn't undo the betrayal. But for the first time, I saw why. She hadn't chosen this path entirely. She'd been pushed. Dean took the drive and slipped it into his laptop. Encrypted files, dozens of them, code names, maps, surveillance grids. One folder stood out, Operation Anchor Point. Dean opened it. Inside, a full dossier. On me, on Jenna, on Mason. We were part of something. No, not part. Targets. I looked at Dean. We need to get Mason now. He nodded. And you need to prepare for the fact that he might already be one of them. We left the bank with the lockbox contents sealed in Dean's backpack. The moment we stepped into the sunlight, everything felt heavier. Not just the air, not just our steps, the truth itself. We weren't just searching for a missing boy anymore. We were infiltrating a system built to remain invisible. We got into Dean's truck, drove in silence for 20 minutes until we hit the state line. Dean made a call. I'm pulling it, he said to someone on the other end. We need eyes, and I don't care how deep you have to go. It was a favor, one of the last ones he was owed. By nightfall, we had something. GPS data buried in the encrypted USB files. Coordinates tagged only once, 2 days prior. 2. A non-registered facility about 30 miles north, tucked into an unmarked patch of state-owned forest. No digital records, no permits. But the metadata didn't lie. Dean turned off the headlights as we approached. We coasted down a gravel path toward a compound, hidden beneath trees older than the town itself. Steel warehouse. No logos, no fences. Just a single padlocked door and a camera that blinked red as we approached. I've seen this before, Dean said low. They use these as black sites during the off-grid training ops. I swallowed. You think they've got him inside? Dean checked his weapon. Let's find out. We moved in. The door creaked open, not locked. Inside was dim, lined with flickering fluorescent lights. The air smelled like dust and copper, walls covered in wires, screens, cameras, monitoring stations. And then, Mason. He stood calmly in the center of the room, facing a console. His eyes moved from screen to screen, hands clasped behind his back. He didn't flinch when he heard us enter, didn't shout, didn't run. He turned, looked me in the eye. You weren't supposed to come. I froze. Mason? He tilted his head. You've disrupted the protocol. Dean moved beside me, weapon drawn but lowered. Son, we're here to take you home. I am home, Mason said, voice calm, almost robotic. I stepped closer. They did something to you. Whatever it is, we can undo it. Mason blinked. You still don't get it. This wasn't a kidnapping. It was a transition. To what? To who I was always meant to be. Dean moved forward. This isn't him, he muttered. It's conditioning, brainwashing. We can pull him out. But Mason smiled. It's not conditioning when it's truth. Then the room shifted. Lights flickered. Screens came alive, and one by one images flashed. Dean, me, Jenna, surveillance from 10, 15 years ago. This wasn't just about me. This had been generations in the making. Mason gestured toward a console. You were part of something before you were born. They chose us. You just never accepted your part. I never asked for this, I snapped. But you played it anyway, he said. You were the test subject, I'm the upgrade. Dean raised his weapon. We're leaving, now. Then, another voice. Cal, from the shadows. I warned you, he said, stepping out from the dark. You shouldn't have come. He pointed a remote, a sharp beep. Gas hissed from vents. The room spun. Dean fired. One shot, a scream, then blackness. I woke up in a hospital room, monitors beeping. Dean slumped in the corner, arm in a sling. "Mason," I croaked. Dean looked up. "Gone." "Cal." "Dead." I shot him, square in the chest, but it was too late. They took the boy. I closed my eyes. Then Dean tossed something onto the bed. The silver locket. I opened it. Inside, a photo. Mason, smiling. A note folded beneath. "Dad, I remember everything. They wanted me to forget, but I fought it. I don't know how long I can hold on, but I'll come back, I swear.